Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Greetings, everyone. So I wanted to read this article. It's actually a chapter from a book, The Scandal of Scientology by Paulette Cooper, which, embarrassingly enough, I have this on Kindle, and I started reading it, and you guys know, ADHD. So, again, from cs.cmu.edu, Chapter 7, the Sea Org. L. Ron Hubbard, flanked by the powerful, highly trained OT of the Sea Org, has forged through gigantic barriers, has identified the true enemy of mankind on this planet. From a Scientology mailing piece. Hubbard himself is never at any of these home orgs anymore. He now lives on the mysterious Sea Org. That's because he was evading authorities. A trio of secret ships that sails the Mediterranean. Hubbard lives on the flagship, the Royal Scotsman, also called the Apollo. Yeah, the ship where how many sexual assaults of children have we heard about? I'm going to compile a list if nobody's going to help me of names. Listen to this, you guys. Can it get more in your face? A 3,330 ton, 320 foot, not 330? Gematria, you guys. Converted Irish cattle ferry, there's the mockery, with LRH, L. Ron Hubbard, floridly painted on the funnel. LRH, or Hubbard, has the title of Commodore. That is the biggest frickin' joke I've ever heard in my life. That fat cow was a Commodore? Come on now. And his beautiful 22-year-old daughter, Diana. We know what the rumors are about her, what he did to her. Look it up. It's public record. Who is also on board, has been given the unlikely title of Lieutenant Commander. Yeah, oh, by the way, they called all the girls and the women sir. Misogyny, anyone? Divide and conquer, anyone? Kind of like what's going on now, but what do I know? Along with them are Hubbard's present wife, 4 of his 7 children from his 3 marriages, his dog, and 2 cars. In addition, the Sea Org is a training fleet for at least 200 white uniformed Scientologists and their children, who range in age from 6 months to 60 years. With the exception of the children, the rest are said to have signed a billion-year contract. Isn't that convenient that they said that? Isn't that convenient, you guys? Because we all know the children signed it, right? With Hubbard, presumably to include their thetans in future lives, to help him help the world. What exactly have they done to help the world? Just saying. Not that some Scientologists don't have good intentions. I think they do. It's called capturing energy, you guys. It's called harvesting energy. To accomplish this goal, Scientologists not only work for Hubbard's gratis, for free, but it appears that they may even pay to be on the boat. Isn't that great, you guys? As many of them are in training to become operating Thetan level 8, the highest level in Scientology. And to reach that level costs a few $1,000s more than it does to become a clear. Their dedication is reflected not only financially. Sea Org Scientologists work a difficult 8-hour day. 8-hour days, you guys. But I'm sure Paulette was just reporting what she knew. Because you know it was way more than 8 hours. And spend their evening studying Scientology. It's indoctrination, indoctrination. Even the children on the boat. Even the children on the boat, troll, work for Scientology as messengers. I'm just going to put this out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of proof out here that states a lot of those young female Commodore messengers were raped. Just go look it up. I'm not making up a story. Life on board is hard, especially for the girls. And punishment is strict, especially for the girls. It is said that someone might be an officer one day and for punishment be sent to swab the decks the next. The London Sunday Times carried an item about a wealthy Californian who was wearing an officer's uniform when he first arrived at the Sea Org. But for being late, he was given dirty blue overalls and made to work in the galleys. This is a humiliation rituals, you guys, just in case nobody knew. Now you know. It's also narcissism. Although it's hard to figure out why any country would complain about a ship full of hardworking people at her ports, at least one country was sufficiently displeased with them to kick them out of their harbor on 24-hour notice. In Corfu, Greece. In Corfu, Greece, LAPD. Where the Scientologists were said to be spending $1,500 a day for provisions and boat repairs. It would seem that the government had little to complain about. Cha-ching! But after 7 months there, the Minister of the Interior kicked them out. He gave them no reason except that they were declared undesirable. Bye, Hubbard. The country may have been displeased with the strange behavior of those living on the Sea Org. Local people complain about seeing Scientology children. Troll! Seeing Scientology children of 8 or 9 years old, troll. Scientology children of 8 or 9 years old, LAPD, being made to walk the plank into the Aegean. And I'm going to add again, interjecting, tell me more children didn't die. Prove it to me. There could be little skeletons out there in the sea. I personally believe there are a lot of baby skeletons buried on some of these Scientology grounds or out in the desert, because they are in California. I have heard the expression that when you want to get rid of a body, you take it out to the desert and it will decompose faster than anything. I've heard this. In one Scientology publication, depicts a similar punishment that was meted out to an older member. It is not known who saves them, but since Scientologists have jobs for everything, director of success, letter registrar, etc., maybe they have a rescue registrar. This is why they came after Paulette Cooper. On another occasion, locals reported that 24 Scientologists left the ship one day and marched half a mile along the quayside in military step, wearing no raincoats, despite the pouring rain. One outsider, Captain John Jones, reported to a London newspaper some of the things that happened while he was sailing with one of the smaller ships. My crew were 16 men and 4 women who wouldn't know a traveler from a tram car, he allegedly stated. He complained that he was made to run the ship according to the Sea Org book. Now let's keep in mind, you guys, I've said it over and over, and I'm sorry I repeat myself. How many sexual assaults have we heard about? from the young women on the so-called the Apollo or the Scotsman. So we got to be real careful about just feeling sorry for some of these men. I don't know who the perpetrators were, but by reasonable deduction, it wouldn't be too fine to figure it out. Facts. He complained that he was made to run the ship according to the Sea Org book, and the electrical equipment, other than lights, radio, and direction finder, and other advanced equipment he had on board, could not be used. Probably because the Scientologists feared it would interfere with the functioning of their e-meters. He reported that using the Org book navigation system based on radio beams from the BBC and other stations, we were soon hopelessly lost. See how asinine it is when you follow a narcissist like Hubbard? How it can actually end your life? P. Diddy Combs come to mind? And I'm not talking about the occult rituals with Diddy. Mystery surrounds the ship. Hubbard is said to sleep during the day, rise at 6 p.m., kind of like a vampire, and is almost never seen outside. Wonder why that would be, guys. Was Hubbard scared? Was he scared someone might throw him overboard? Wonder why that would be. Most of the people on the boat don't see him either, except for his personal staff, like the children. Let's break this down right at this very moment in time, LAPD, just in case you guys are like, I don't know, None of these police officers, nobody knows anything. We all know who his staff were. They were young girls. Servants. Facts. For his personal staff and officers. The latter have meetings with him upon written request. Outsiders are not even sure exactly where on the boat Hubbard lives. He's paranoid. Hubbard was paranoid for a reason, though. I believe he had some type of mental health problem going on, but he had a right to be paranoid. You know how easy it would have been to take him out? Why nobody did is beyond me, because we wouldn't be talking about this, would we? I'm just saying. Because I'm a United States Army veteran, served almost 6 years honorably. Put it like this. I heard stories. That's all I'm going to say. Although one reporter suspected it was in the middle of the upper part of the deck, where a corridor leads to what few cabins there are, with a notice forbidding entry. I remember hearing, too, that his quarters were, like, pristinely clean, and then all of the Commodore messengers and the staff and whatever fake officers they had prancing around in fake uniforms, that where they were was just abhorrent. Filthy, dirty. They didn't get reasonable food or anything. It is said that most of the other people sleep in dormitory-like accommodations. Captain Jones, mentioned before, said the men and women on his ship shared the same quarters, with only a blanket dividing the sections. I want to add, too, do you guys notice? I've been screaming and hollering about this forever. They always, and I'm not blaming this on Paulette Cooper, because she probably was just taking reports from people. But it's very obvious to me how they completely omit the fact that children were on these ships. All of them do. Every single one of them. All of them. See how Captain Jones, look at this. Captain Jones, mentioned before, said the men and women on his ship shared the same quarters, with only a blanket dividing the sections. No mention of the children. Do you guys remember the account where I was reading And I've read it several times where the sister, who was about approximately 13 years old, this is back in the 60s, she had to save her little brother, who was 10 years old, and some SOB, and you know it was an adult, locked him in the room where what is it called? Oh, I forget. The engine room, I think, of the boat. I believe the engine room. But it was one of those main rooms. I can't think of it right now. But they had him doing all this horrific manual labor, and he had to constantly admit the crimes that he committed as a 10-year-old boy. It is a miracle that little boy didn't die in that engine room. And the only one that would save him was his sister, who was 13 years old. I can't think of her name right now. And the young boy was traumatized for the rest of his life. But at that time, the little girl appealed to Ron Hubbard, and the rules, the dumbass policies of Scientology stated that the little brother, who was 10 years old, a child in an adult body, could not be relieved of his duties, punishment, his ethics handlings, by some disgusting, narcissistic, repugnant, filthy fool that should have been thrown overboard. It's my opinion. In order for that little boy to be relieved of his ethics handlings, that all adults are fine with in Scientology, by the way. What I'm saying is they're fine with the ethics handlings. She had to take his place as a 13-year-old girl. And Jenna Miscavige wrote about that in her book, as far as children when they were working, and they still are FBI, they still are Homeland Security, they still are LAPD, they still are Clearwater PD, they still are Boston PD, they still are Chi-Town PD, that they would have to get someone to replace them. And SP Chef, he talked about it as well. Samuel, he was 9 when he became a chef? Isn't that great? Hubbard also keeps the purpose of the ship well hidden. Right. So hidden, isn't it, you guys? This would go way beyond hidden in plain sight. It's such an atrocity, it can't even be hidden in plain sight. Although he initially admitted that the Sea Org was established as a mobile headquarters for setting up new bases or correcting old ones, he now seems to want people to think they're all there for exploration. Or getting us saved, of course, because, why not? These bald, ugly, disgusting, fat, middle-aged men who are perverse and can't get a real woman on their own. They bring these young, innocent, beautiful girls, and you know what happens to them. Although he initially admitted that the Sea Org was established as a mobile headquarters for setting up new bases or correcting old ones, he now seems to want people to think they're all there for exploration, not Scientology. That would be the getting out of the liability, you guys. As following laws and that's why he was saying that. The stationery used by the ship is imprinted with the Hubbard Exploration Company, Ltd. No address given. One spokesman for the ship said its purpose was basically to search for oil and gas in the Mediterranean and elsewhere. And in one communique, Hubbard stated the ship was in Greece to explore and study the decline of ancient civilization and so learn how the current one is going. Hubbard has even denied to interviewers in the early days when he talked with them that the ship or he was connected to Scientology. He's getting out of liability, you guys. That's all that is. That's all that is. Although telex reports from St. Hill were directly in front of him. Another mystery concerns Linda Hicks, a very beautiful 22-year-old British blonde. Oh, here we go, you guys. Who joined the Sea Org and then disappeared. Just disappeared, you guys. Just disappeared. I think all of us should do a lot more research to find out how many missing children, babies, and adults there are. You know, and I know there are a lot of them. Not to count the suicided ones and the murdered ones, or the allegedly murdered ones. Her father, who had a heart condition, claimed that his only daughter had initially become involved with Scientology in Las Palmas, and that when he saw her afterwards, she dyed her hair black, she was filthy, and her mind seems to have gone off the rails. The News of the World, which printed the story, said that Linda allegedly sent the letter below to her boyfriend at home, saying she had been hypnotized on the Sea Org and had been married without conscious consent to another Scientologist. Child brides, anyone? She was of consent, but she didn't want it. So they've been doing this a long time, not just Scientology. Did you guys know that a lot of trafficked girls or women, they are forced to marry their handler? Read the book Transformation of America, but don't read it if you're not ready for the truth, because it will mess you up like it did me. She was married to one of her first handlers. Darling Oscar, so many terrible things have happened to me since I waved goodbye to you at Las Palmas. Oh, why didn't you make me leave that boat, Oscar? Did you know what was happening to me? I honestly didn't know. But I feel sick for you in Las Palmas. Do you feel that way for me now? Was it holiday romance, or will you always love me? How I love you. Darling, what did those people do to me? They changed me. You saw it. Why didn't you make me leave? They make people's minds sick. They influenced me. They tried to make me change against you. It's black magic, you guys. I became sick and hysterical, and they put me on one of those machines, probably the e-meter. Then someone talked for hours to me. The News of the World reported a reference here to her marrying one of the boys on the boat. See what some of those men were doing? I can't remember very much about it, except that after 2 days at home, I began to change back to the old mummy that you loved and started to remember things. They were evil. Oh, my darling, what a terrible mistake I made. After Linda's father saw this letter, he went to the Sea Org with a News of the World reporter. Anybody that has a lot of information, let's find out what men were on that ship during that time. With a News of the World reporter to try to locate his daughter. But neither were able to board the ship, reach Hubbard, or find Linda. A Scientologist on deck said that Linda had had a beautiful romance with a fourth mate on the 414-ton Sea Org trawler, the Avon River. You see how they do the cover stories? You and I both know that was no romance. The next day, the Scientologists allegedly issued a statement to the reporters saying that Linda's parents favored another suitor and insisted their daughter leave her husband. They also stated that the parents wanted her removed and sent to a psychiatrist for electric shocks, a favorite accusation of the Scientologists, and that Linda, fearing kidnapping, left the ship and fled. They added that the parents detest Scientologists and tried to use Scientology as an excuse to break up the marriage. So it sounded like another missing, well, this is the first missing woman I've seen. Leave it to me to find stuff. What happens on the Sea Org may forever remain a mystery, since those on the ship stay for quite a while and have little or no contact with their friends and family back home. One story did leak out, however, that adds to the intrigue. It suggests that although joining the Sea Org may be voluntary, leaving it may not always be. When one of the Sea Org ships was docked in Corfu, the London Times reported that a number of people on shore had seen a female Scientologist and her 2 children attempt to run off the boat, screaming, and they then saw her dragged back in by uniformed Scientologists. Wouldn't you guys love to know who those were? Could it have been Rinder? Rinder was on the Apollo. Wake up, you guys. Before she could reach the roadway, the harbor master in Corfu, a friend of Scientology, said he saw no reason for an investigation. If I remember correctly, you guys, now this is just me alleging. This is me guessing, thinking out loud. Seems to me that Rinder did talk about being on the ship in Greece. So these are all the notes. I'm trying to figure out where these go to. I think these are from what I just read. Let's see. Oh, wow. So those are the citations. So that was in 1967. Well, wait a minute. I think it was around 1967. Somewhere around that time. So, whatever men or so-called boys that were under 18 years old on the Apollo, or otherwise known as the Royal Scotsman, in between 1967 and 1969. We're watching you.